There is a building going up near you right now. 5 floors of apartments, flat windows in a grid, a ground floor in a different color with a coffee shop in it, or a garage door, cladding panels in gray, or in that one specific mustard yellow. You've walked past it 100 times. You've probably stopped seeing it. And the one in Denver looks like the one in Nashville, which looks like the one in Seattle, which looks like the one 2 towns over from you. The normal explanation is that architects got lazy, or developers got cheap, or everyone's just copying everyone. That's not it. Nobody chose this. There was never a meeting. The shape of that building is the shape of a table in a book. And once you can read the table, you can't unsee it. So let me make it make sense. Okay, so American Building Code sorts every building into one of 5 construction types based on what it's made of and how it burns. Type 1 is the concrete and steel stuff. Type 5 is ordinary wood framing, same as your house. Type 3 sits in the middle. Wood on the inside, but the outside walls have to be non-combustible. And there's a table that says how tall each type is allowed to get. For apartments, which the code files under R2, Type 3A stops at 4 stories and 65 feet. Except there's a section, 504.2, that says if you sprinkler the entire building with a full commercial system, an NFPA 13, you get 1 more story and 20 more feet. 4 plus 1 is 5. 65 plus 20 is 85. That's the 5. 5 isn't a design decision. It's the last row on the table before the table runs out. And if you cheap out and use the residential sprinkler system instead, the 13R, you get capped at 4 stories and 60 feet and you lose the extra floor, which is why these buildings pay for the expensive sprinklers. Now hold on. I said Type 3 needs non-combustible exterior walls, and wood is not non-combustible. So how is any of this wood? This is the trick, and it's basically one guy. In the early 90s, an architect in Los Angeles called Tim Smith was reading the building code on a beach in Hawaii, and he noticed that section 602.3 has an exception buried in it. Fire retardant treated wood, which is wood pressure treated with chemicals so it chars instead of feeding a fire, is allowed in an exterior wall rated 2 hours or less. So the wall is legally non-combustible, and it's made of wood. Smith's firm built it, a 100-unit affordable housing project in Little Tokyo called Casa Heiwa. It opened in 1996. He got those 100 apartments for 60 to 70% of what they'd otherwise have cost. Okay, that's the 5. Now the 1. 5 stories of wood still has to sit on something. Section 510.2. If you put a horizontal floor assembly rated for 3 hours between the bottom of the wood and whatever's underneath it, the code treats the top half and the bottom half as 2 completely separate buildings for working out height and area. Read that again. 2 separate buildings, 1 structure, 1 slab between them, and the story count starts over at 0. So underneath, you pour a concrete Type 1 podium, which has no height limit at all, and on top of it, you stack your 5 wood stories. And the code does not add them together. That's the ground floor in the different color. It's not a design flourish. You're looking at the edge of a 3-hour fire-rated slab, and what's inside the podium is usually the whole reason it's there. Parking. Loads of cities still require somewhere around 1.5 parking spaces per apartment, and the moment you can't fit that in a surface lot, you're building structured parking, which runs about $30,000 a stall. Brookings put it at an average of $50,000 per unit of structured parking. So the parking rule sets the size of the podium, and the podium sets where the building starts. Right, that's the height. Now the floor plan. Why is it always that long, thin thing with a corridor down the middle? Stairs. The code lets you serve an apartment floor with a single staircase, but only up to the 3rd story, and only if there are 4 units or fewer on that floor. That's table 1006.3.4.1. Above the 3rd floor, 2 exits. Every floor, no exceptions, and they can't be next to each other. Section 107.1.1 says that in a sprinklered building, the 2 exits have to sit at least 1/3 of the building's diagonal apart. So now you're trapped. 2 stairs shoved to opposite ends and a hallway joining them. Put apartments on both sides of that hallway, and you get the double-loaded corridor. That's every one of these buildings, everywhere. the same bar of hallway with doors down both sides, which is also why so many apartments have windows on exactly one wall. Your unit is a slot hanging off a corridor. There is no other side. And that second stair isn't free. Pew and the Center for Building in North America ran the numbers in 2025. The extra stair plus the corridor you need to connect it eats around 7% of the building's floor area and adds 6 to 13% to construction costs on a small building. So is that stair keeping you safe? 3 American cities let you go higher on one stair: New York, Honolulu, and Seattle, which has allowed it since 1977. Seattle's rule is Section 1006.3.3, Exception 7. Up to 6 stories, no more than 4 apartments per floor, no more than 20 feet from your front door to the stairwell, and the stair itself has to be pressurized so smoke can't get in. Pew went and looked at every fire death in modern single-stair buildings in New York and Seattle between 2012 and 2024. New York alone has 4,440 of them. The death rate came out the same as every other kind of residential building. They found 4 deaths across both cities in 12 years, and in none of them did the missing second stair play any part. That's one study, 2 cities. It isn't settled, but it's the only real data anybody has, and it doesn't say what most people assume it says. Okay, now the honest part. It is very easy to look at these things and go, ugly, soulless, developers ruined my street. And I get it, but you have to hold the other half at the same time. The country is short somewhere between 4 and 7 million homes. And going 1 floor taller than 5 means leaving wood behind entirely and building in concrete and steel. The Turner Center at Berkeley ran the numbers on 223 California projects. Concrete and steel construction came out $65 more per square foot than wood over a podium. $65 a square foot is not a rounding error. That is the difference between a building getting built and a lot staying empty. So the 5/1 is genuinely the cheapest legal way to get real density onto a normal city block. It's fast, framing crews already know how to do it, and the units are real apartments that real people are living in tonight. Anybody dunking on it purely for how it looks is skipping all of that. And here's the thing that gets me. Every single feature people hate about these buildings is a rule somebody wrote for a decent reason. The height is a fire table. The odd ground floor is a 3-hour slab. The endless corridor is a second staircase. And the mustard yellow panel is somebody trying to make a code-shaped box look like a person designed it. That building isn't an architect's opinion. It's the code's opinion, wearing cladding. So which is it? Is the sameness a fair price for housing that actually gets built, and we should be glad the box exists at all? Or is the code so narrow that it only leaves one legal building standing? And the thing we should be arguing about is the code, not the box. Because those are 2 completely different arguments, and everybody keeps having them as if they're the same one.